Hello and welcome to the First Click Inc. podcast, where we talk about what works with SEO, SEM, and social media marketing. I'm Chase Reiner, and today we are joined with Josh Bachynski, who is one of my favorite SEOs, mainly because he got me started doing SEO through one of his video courses, which is actually how I contacted him on YouTube. Josh, do you want to fill us in on kind of a little bit about you and whatever you want to tell the audience?
Sure, no problem. My name is Josh Bachynski. I've been doing SEO for around 16 years. Yeah, I do SEO for all types and sizes of businesses. I rank my own sites as well. I've dabbled in the noir chapeau. I've dabbled in the, how do you say gray in French? The gris chapeau, the chapeau.
I have no
and
idea.
I think that's it. French people, please forgive me. I'm not a very good Canadian. I speak like 5% French. And of course, mostly white hat SEO because that's just kind of the way everything is going, and you don't need really to do that other stuff for the most part. And it's much safer anyway. So I've been doing SEO for quite some time, digital branding, marketing, that kind of a thing, getting into film. I've been writing stuff like that. Conference presentations, things like that. So I'm just kind of all around. I'm all over the place.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, and your SEO courses are great, which is going to go to my first question on how you actually decided to start those on YouTube. Um, but you're also very knowledgeable, and that's also very impressive to me. And I was going to ask you as well, how do you learn this stuff, and how in depth do you go? Do you spend a lot of time? You don't have to answer both the questions at once.
I will answer both at the same time. The answer to the latter question is so I started in information technology and IT. That's
Same.
how old I am. I'll use that acronym, IT, initialism actually, in '94. So I got my first job fixing computers for the University of Winnipeg in 1994, and I moved out a couple of years later and bought my first house. I was when I was 19. And so I got in IT really early. And in fact, kind of before, just when the Mozilla browser was coming out and this web thing was getting popular. And so I'm fixing computers, setting up computer networks, Novell networks, a couple Linux networks, FreeBSD, Samba networks, things like that. And I'm starting to do some programming. I didn't do a lot of programming, just, setting up Windows 3.1 and things like that. And then I'm like, well, what's this HTML thing? What's this web thing? So I decided to take it upon myself to learn HTML. And then I decided to take it upon myself to learn JavaScript, or a little bit of JavaScript. And then from there, I realized, all the potential and all the money on the interwebs. And and after that, so then I got a management position at the university. Was a good opportunity for me. And I'm not going to go through the whole story, but then I got a VP position at a software company that also I had to handle all the marketing. And so I got into this SEO thing and started to. Our CMS was called Cytolite at the time, and we were ranking number one for PHP CMS and PHP content management system, stuff like that. So I realized I've always been a gamer, always been a hacker, always been kind of a person who tries to figure out all the rules of a game so you can exploit them to completely ethical and beneficial for everyone involved results, of course. So that's how I kind of got started. So to kind of answer your question, because it seems to me there's a sub question. Your question is how the heck do you know all that stuff? And the answer is because I've been doing it for such a long time, right? Google is a bunch of IT academics. I also have a master's degree and I was doing a PhD. I'm also an academic. I know how academics think. I know how IT guys think. I've worked both private companies and public corporations. I know the gamut of how IT guys think and gals too. And so, I kind of understand what they're doing. I know enough about programming to understand how it works. I took courses in C, and then of course, I was teaching JavaScript for a while. I'm not a great programmer by any stretch, but I know enough of how it works to know what they're going to do. And I know enough about the web to know what signals are out there and what they're going to do. And if I was them, how I would do it.
Hmm.
This helps me keep kind of ahead of what they're doing. And then, of course, I network. I listen to every single hangout they put out. I listen to every single video they put out. I read every single thing they put out, and I analyze it and overanalyze it and analyze it again. And like I said, because of my academic background, I'm very good at listening to some person wah, 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 talk at the front of the class and then read between the lines what he wants me to write on the exam to get an A plus or on the paper to get an A plus. So I'm very good at doing that. Again, I'm a gamer. I'm very good at doing that, right? So that's the same skill set I use to analyze what Google is saying all the time. And then, of course, I'm a nerd at heart, and I love science, and of course, my PhD was partly in science, and so I love being as scientific as possible. I'm reticent to use the word science and SEO in the same sentence because there is absolutely nothing scientific about SEO. Not really. I mean, we don't have access to the black box of nature. And as far as I know, God is not trying to screw things up on purpose to obfuscate the rules of reality, as far as I know. The great spaghetti monster or Buddha, whoever it is pulling the strings, I don't think they're just unless some religions actually think that like maybe Loki, the trickster god, they think that the gods are trying to mess with our heads. But I don't, if you forgive the metaphor, if you forgive the bad joke, so that's why Google's not very sciencey. But yeah, so I try to be as scientific as possible with Google, and so I always talk about this thing called the three levels of evidence, and so I try and go off those three levels to make sure my SEO theories are up to date. Now, the first question was, how do I decide to make those YouTube courses? Well, I taught at university for years, so one, I love educating, and I love being a teacher. That's part of the reason why I quit, actually, is because I realized I wouldn't be able to teach the courses I wanted to teach or in the way I wanted to teach them, because universities, at least in Canada, are highly political. Anyway, that's a story for another day, but at the very least, that's part of the reason why I decided to make these SEO courses. The other reason is because I realize there's so much misinformation out there. There's so many people who don't understand what's going on. I get emails on a daily basis. I get at least 5 emails a day of people asking me SEO questions, which is great. I love it. It's I invite it. I say, people, email me if you have SEO questions. But sometimes I like to take more of a professor approach and say, okay, here's a course, blah. Just go look at my course. I don't have to type out the same thing, 5 times a day. So that's the main reasons why. And of course, it's a marketing channel for myself.
Hmm.
2 or 3 years ago, no, actually more like 4 or 5 years ago, when I decided to go full consultancy. So I always been kind of half consultant, half in-house for various places over the years. And so when I decided to go full consultant, I, took a look at the Google SERPs, and I realized that, everyone ranking for SEO has, 10 million black hat backlinks, and every orchestrated thing under the sun. And so that's the last place I want to be. So I looked at YouTube instead because it was at the time the second biggest search engine. I believe it still is, technically speaking, the second
Yep.
biggest search engine. I don't know. Apple iPhone might change something about that, but so I decided, okay, well, I'm going to rank for SEO and YouTube. And so if you search for SEO and YouTube, more than often than not, one of my videos comes up.
Yeah, I think right now for SEO, you're number two for that new course you made. You were number two for the 2015 course, but I think that one got knocked down by your new one.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's good. I was hoping that would happen because really, you shouldn't be going off of SEO information that's even a year old.
Right.
You should be going off the most current information.
Yeah, that's why I
And
always put in my titles like I'll put like 2016 or sometimes I'll even put the month because I feel like that's what people in this industry are looking for, which kind of goes back to the first question on like you learning about SEO. Do you follow certain people? Is there certain blogs that you really recommend to people? I mean, because personally I follow specific blogs and people, but it's always nice hearing from other people who are very knowledgeable about this stuff like yourself and kind of see what they're doing.
yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So I would have to give a two-part answer to that based on who you are. For me, because I have multiple experiments always running, and I have contacts in both black hat industries and white hat industries with experiments that are constantly running. And because I'm watching Google so much, I'm dedicating hours a day to this research. And it's literally hours a day, sometimes 8 hours a day. Back when Panda and Penguin first came out, it was literally like 7 hours of research a day to figure out what the heck they're doing, because that was complete game changers, right? So I'm doing all this research, I'm doing all this experiments, and I have correlation software that I can do massive reports on different search query spaces, different search results pages, and I can do huge correlation reports on multiple factors, on like 400 factors of what all the guys on page one are doing, and then I compare that to what all the guys on page 20 are doing, and that paints a very, very interesting picture on the on page side of things about what ranking factors actually work and which ones don't at all. In fact, and then which ones seem to be hurting. So I have access to all this information. So that helps me. So to answer your question, I don't follow anybody because I have superior information, right? Quite frankly, they should be following me. I mean, that sounds very conceited to say that, but and a lot of industry professionals do. I mean, most of my a good chunk of my SEO I do for other SEOs actually, other SEO agencies. I'm kind of their dirty little secret. You know, they take my reports and they ask, can we put our name on top of your report and just give it? Oh yeah, sure, no problem. You're fine, whatever. So anyway, so I would follow me if you're willing to do that research, if you have the time and the wherewithal and the experience to do that research, then you shouldn't listen to me. You shouldn't listen to anybody. I mean, like any good scientist, you should read what I did. You should check my results. You should check my methodology, and you should go, okay, that was a good experiment or no, or whether you trust me or not. And over subsequent years, I've predicted it right every time. That gives you an idea of whether you should be listening to me or not.
Hmm.
But you got to do the research. You have to do the time. You have to put on the lab coat, and it takes hours. It takes hours. Now, if you don't have that time, which most people don't, if you don't have that time, well, then the best thing to do is to find someone like me, or find your guy, or find your gal, and follow them and listen to mostly what they say, because they're spending the time doing the research, and it is a huge amount of time. Like, I don't want to sugarcoat how much time that is. And you have to listen not only to the quality of their research and listen to their different sources, but you have to kind of get an idea of what kind of different software they have to determine this and what kind of different sources they have. So that might be my answer. One, if you're willing to do the research, don't listen to anybody, don't follow anybody. In that sense, like, don't follow Barry Schwartz, don't follow anybody, don't follow me if you're going to be a scientist. Just listen to what they all say and then make your own conclusions. If you don't have the time to do the research, then pick one or two that seem pretty good, and try to follow what they say.
Okay. So I guess this kind of leads into my next question, which is, like, in your opinion, where are things headed in terms of what people should be learning moving forward from 2016? Because 2015 was kind of when I started about a year ago, and it seems like it's starting to head towards like doing more schema markup, doing more social media building, like throughout your profiles. AMP just came out. Maybe you could talk about that. But what are you kind of focusing on in terms of maybe learning the next thing?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So luckily, things are always changing, and I could be wrong, and Google is always making differences. But quite frankly, out of all the signals that they can get and all the processing they can do, Google has pretty much nailed it. Like,
Yeah.
with the advent of RankBrain, and they just promoted John GN something. I can't remember his last name, but he was their team leader for RankBrain. He's their AI specialist at Google, John GN something. He just got the new job as head of search. So Amit Singhal is out and John is in, and he was their AI head. So that should scream volumes right there. That the head of search is their head of AI. So RankBrain is the future. AI is the future. Everything is going to be an artificial intelligence based on machine learning. And in my opinion, this is going to be, and there's lots of evidence to suggest this is going to be based on user actions, not just user clicks, but user actions. What they typed in, how they typed it in, where they moved their mouse, what they clicked on, where they moved their mouse, what they clicked on, how many pages were in between, how much pogo sticking happened until some kind of conversion based on the user type. That Miley Oyi was nice enough to put out a video about a year and a half, 2 years ago, about task completion. And this is the way they're going. And you have to model your different user types and what is your kind of conversion for each user type. Like, if you just have a blog and you're having informational users, A conversion is they read, they were informed, right? That's a conversion. And maybe from their perspective, they were informed and they didn't type in the search again, and they didn't bounce back and go to some other result. From your perspective, and maybe even from their perspective too, you might want to think of an informational user's conversion being something like, oh, I don't know, they made a positive comment, they liked it, they plus oneed it, they shared it, they bookmarked it, maybe they returned later, something like that. By the way, all stuff that Google can completely see and can completely track. And there's no reason why they shouldn't or wouldn't be tracking that, because it'd be a great signal for them. Um, yeah, so sorry, I got off topic a bit. I forget the question.
I think I was asking like what you would be focused on in terms
Oh
of.
yes, right. So I mean, rank brain. So clearly, there's all these signals that they can access, that they are accessing. There's lots of evidence to suggest that they are accessing these signals, and that's basically. So that was my good news actually, is because so now we've kind of gone through this transformation process of Panda and Penguin, and now Panda is finally in the core, and it's rank brain is the third biggest ranking signal. Not to forget Hummingbird, which they released in June 2013, which is kind of their semantic index on steroids. They're to be able to bring the information, to read the schema entities, to make an entity database, and then to make the entity to get the entity information to the user quickly. And that's why they call it Hummingbird, because they call it Hummingbird flying back and forth.
Hmm.
So all that put together is where we are now. And so the good part is that that's not really going to change, right? So what they've been saying for years, to make the best website possible, that actually is going to be true. Like that's not going to be indirectly tracked anymore. It's increasingly, it's about 80 to 90% directly tracked, and that's just going to get sharper and sharper. And the changes for rank brain are just going to get faster and faster, so that even in your industry of, let's say you're ranking for local, like chiropractic Seattle, where there's only 5,000 searches a month, kind of a thing, it's not going to take RankBrain 6 months, or Pigeon in this case, because Pigeon was actually the prior algorithm that they kind of cut their teeth on, in my opinion. Pigeon is just the ancestor of RankBrain, or
Mhm.
was the first instance of it. Because task completion is even more important in local. Anyway, when you have, it takes a long time to update though, because they have to filter through all that quote unquote noise, is what they used to call it. And the reason why they lied to us and said that they couldn't do it. Now they don't bother saying that anymore, really, because they're doing it. Um, so but it takes a very long time for them to realize, with all the noise, because users do crazy things, and they have to get a certain statistical percentage of the craziness, if you will, of what users do, and then they get a baseline. A conversion percentage, right? That's kind of based on, that's what they call their quality score in the 2012 patent algorithm, very, very, very loosely. And then now how RankBrain will rank you up or rank you down. If it ranks down, it just might rank up, and then everything else filters down. Is they have to see the deviation from baseline. And so the more data they have, the faster they can compute deviation from baseline, because they see what aberrations are, of the kind of aberrations they want to track in terms of satisfaction, and not the aberrations they want to ignore because users be crazy. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
say they do turn up RankBrain, and the more people start to interact with these websites through the search results, uh, you know, they start ranking these sites higher at a much faster rate. Um, what would you say would be like the best solution for there's still all those industries out there that basically have a monopoly on these very highly targeted keywords, and it's going to be very hard to outrank them, especially if the keyword you're trying to SEO for is on page 5, and it's really not going to get any interaction.
Yeah. And so the way you break through that is brand searches, right?
Hmm.
So brand searches is another thing that they've been factoring into the mix, and they're kind of like the link for 2016 and beyond, because they're much harder to fake. It's much harder to not everyone realizes that they're using it, and but it also represents the real world in a way that if a new business comes on the scene and they have a commercial in the Super Bowl, and suddenly a million people are searching for their brand, Google picks up on that. Google goes, okay. Or just like if they have something on Twitter that goes viral, or something on Google Plus that goes viral, or something on Reddit that goes viral, Google pays attention to all this and notices all this. And they have a backdoor access to a lot of this. So, and they have for years, and they've been working on that. So the upshot is that so you just do kind of normal marketing and normal branding, and to just kind of tailor it to make sure that you incentivize brand searches and try to incentivize brand searches for your target area that you want to rank in, and also any brand search variations. So, like for example, I use the example of Walmart. Why can't I outrank Walmart, Josh? Well, because a million people searched for Walmart last month and clicked on the Walmart site, and then even another million people clicked on typed in Walmart space shirts. So that's a signal for Google telling that not only is this thing, whatever this thing is called Walmart, great, but they also sell this thing called shirts. And I served this page, and 90% of the people clicked on it, and they didn't bounce. And all my user action quotient says they were quote unquote satisfied. And so RankBrain goes, yep, that's what I'm supposed to be doing, right? Not to mention all the other secondary signals and subsidiary signals, like the on-page signals that are primary, actually. And I think still, if the Forbes article is still accurate, the Forbes article that was published a few months ago about RankBrain said that actually RankBrain was the third biggest ranking factor, and so the first two were probably on-site factors. I mean, that's probably clearly the first one, and the second one was still probably off-page references, like links, like social, like buzz, like text mentions, like ratings and reviews, off-page schema, stuff like that. So it's still probably what they're going for, but I think RankBrain is going to get increasingly ever more important in that. They can never get rid of on-page, and they shouldn't, because they used to do that, and that's what's called link bombing. And that's how you run into the scenario where a page called, Big Idiot ranks for the query George W. Bush or something like that. So because 20,000 people made a link with anchor text big idiot, and so
And
that's how.
that still happens in image search for social media social media platforms like Reddit. Like they basically do that with I forget. I know they did it with Comcast or something, and if you look up
Yes,
like
yeah, 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 yeah.
Hitler or something, they show up.
Right. Yeah, 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 yeah. So that's an older algorithm, right? And it's interesting how, the hacks that used to work against Google 10 years ago are going to be working against these smaller companies because, or they might, statistically they might, because A, they're not paying attention. B, they have to go through the same growing pains that Google went through. C, that they're in terms of their gamification, in terms of their strategies, they're still kind of like playing on the lower level, whereas Google's gotten ever more fine-tuned, and their security has gotten ever more nuanced because of all the black hats. They should be thanking the black hats, quite frankly, for perfecting their system so much.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess would you agree that because you and I probably, I mean, I definitely believe that they're they're definitely going to be implementing RankBrain, at a higher rate, or however you would say that, in the future. That brand awareness is huge, so like social media is going to be huge a part of playing in brand awareness, and then also search engine marketing. I wanted to know what your thoughts were on SEM. Do you do any of that? And if you do social media, where do you usually hang out on?
So that's an excellent question. So when it comes to social media, for my brand, obviously I've used YouTube, I used Twitter, and that's basically it. For me personally, there's only so much I can do out there, and I want to have a really personable experience. And it's very important to have a personable experience on social media. So it doesn't make sense for me to hire some person in the Philippines. No slight against hiring a person in the Philippines or the Philippines in general, but it doesn't make any sense for me to hire someone like that who's going onto these forums and talking blah 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 blah. I've tried other forums, and so some work, some don't. But basically, it's better for me to make my own destination than to try and kind of leech off of someone else's destination. So because I can make good content, so that's not a problem. The problem, and that's the issue with social media, is that people don't know how to do it. Like I'm sure you noticed in my 2016 video SEO course, where people are going to, like, as analogous to someone going to a cocktail party and just chucking their business cards at people and saying, I sell cars, I sell cars, I sell cars, 30% off, 30% off. Like that's what their social channel looks like, and that's exactly what it looks like when they go to a cocktail party to do that. As you can imagine, that doesn't get a very good result with the other folks there. So on social media, you have to it's not a social channel, it's your TV channel. And if your TV programs are not interesting to watch, then no one's going to watch it, right? So you got to have interesting content on social media. Stop having a blog. Stop, putting content on your site that is probably 9 times out of 10 crappy content, and start at the very least putting that on social media. A, make it not crappy content, and B, even if it is, at the very least, there's no risk, because the only risk is that people are just not going to like your social media. There's no panda algorithm in Facebook that will make you suck.
Yeah.
The same way that there is a bit actually, but not in the same way there is on Google.
Yeah.
So social media is going to, it's going to be hugely important. No one's making links anymore. The blogosphere is dead. The only people making links are old educators and, quite frankly, people in the SEO space and some news stuff, right? So links is not going to be a reliable signal for them to use anyway, and was never the best signal for them to use. It was always a tertiary signal of quality at best, because presumably Larry Page and Sergey Brin postulated many a year ago that if people are making links to your site, that must mean that you have some kind of quality or there's some kind of importance there. Of course, that's the slippery slope. that's a bit of a stretch there, of course. So that's why Google, is really trying to track the direct metrics that tells them something is actually of quality. And it can even they can get away from that abstraction now too, right? They just use that abstraction for public relations speak. They can get rid of that abstraction entirely just because they don't, but they just don't, because they don't want to admit that they're tracking user actions. It's user actions that tells them whether the user is satisfied. It's user satisfaction, which they now have started talking about, task completion and other euphemisms like user satisfaction. That is the main important factor, the main thing they're tracking, and that's what they should be in theory, because that's what's going to give them the best quality results.
Hmm. So SEOs are probably going to start implementing a lot more conversion rate optimization into their plans, and probably a lot more A and B testing, right, to kind of get the best user interactions on their site possible, because that's where we think we're moving, right?
Well, I mean, my short answer is yes. My longer answer is they're not already doing this.
Well, I mean,
You know what I mean? They should
yeah.
already be doing this. They should have been doing this from 10 years ago. And the really good and really robust SEOs, of course, are and were. But now, yeah, because it was a direct metric of success for the client. If you can get them $10,000 extra a month, hey, you're a good consultant. But also, it was an indirect metric of success back 10 years ago, and now I believe it's a direct metric of success. John Mueller has dropped some subtle hints, and some people have caught some sneaky little Google bots on their site. I don't mean the crawler, I mean like zombie bots that actually fill in the conversion form, fill in the shopping cart, and try and test it out. And Matt Cutts also made that cryptic statement 2 or 3 years ago in an SMX Advanced in Seattle. He said, "Oh, by the way, you should all have autocomplete on your web forms." That's all he said, and then everyone was like, "What?" And he didn't say anything else about it, right? So they've been, and John Mueller has been dropping these hints, like he's asked point blank, "How do I rank this product page better?" He's like, "Oh well, you should have some social, and maybe people should be searching it in brand, and they should click on it and go right there. Oh, and maybe conversions anyway, blah blah blah." He said conversions specifically in a conversation of how to rank better. So I was like, wow, if anybody who doesn't think, because they can of course do the complete heat mapping of where the mouse goes, and I don't know if you've ever seen a heat mapping software, but it's very interesting, and I don't know if you've noticed yourself doing this. I definitely do this. I move my mouse over kind of what I'm thinking about. So there's statistically kind of this thing where people do this, right? If they want to call the phone number, they move their mouse over the phone number, and so you can see even in just mouse-based heat maps what they're doing and what they're interested in and what they're looking at. So yeah, there's
Yep.
no reason why Google can't use this, and this couldn't be part of that system. The only thing is that I haven't seen a patent on it yet. But they put out so many patents. Maybe Bill Slawski missed it. I'm not sure.
Hmm. Yeah, we were actually using some software called Lucky Orange that was basically a live recorder of people on our sites, and similar to heat map tracking, but definitely probably should check that out on bigger sites if possible, and kind of see if we can see some robots coming in.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's that heat mapping is great. I like just using kind of the clicks that are part of analytics because I have a lot of experience in conversion optimization. You know, sites that I've done conversion optimization on, they can get conversions of up to 60 or 70%. There is no reason why you shouldn't be able to get 60 to 70% conversions on your main users on your main thing of what you're giving. So you know, for example, if you're a blog and people want to be informed, well, then you should be informing 60 to 70%, right? Remember, I talked about the different user type. If they're buying, then they should buy at 60 to 70%. You know, at least preferably, at least that's what I can get. But you know, I usually try and target my sites way down in the sales funnel. I usually like to laser focus on the bottom end of the sales funnel, right when they have cash in hand, they have their MasterCard in one hand and the mouse in the other, and they're ready to go. So, of course, not every business model has to follow that philosophy. But it does solve some problems when they have the Mastercard in hand and they're ready. That does solve some problems.
Does that mean you don't believe in remarketing, Josh?
Yes, yes, of course. So remarketing and is really important. Now, a lot of people mean different things by remarketing. I'm assuming you're meaning like using cookies to when they come back, or putting them in some kind of putting your site in some kind of advertising service.
I was referring to AdWords display.
Yeah, yeah. So there's remarketing. When I talk about it, I'm talking about there's many different kind of advertising services where you can put your site in, and when they go to that site using those using that advertising system, it says, hey, you know, it knows you were just on a site about hockey sticks, and so you go to, you know, wherever Starbucks, and they've got a special on hockey sticks, you know, or something like that. Or when they come back to your site, you can give them the cookie tells you that they're coming back to your site. You can give them some kind of incentive, and you can give them some kind of special message just to try and boost conversions. And oh yeah, definitely for sure. I mean, if you don't catch them the first time, catching them the second time and trying to remind them everywhere they go is definitely no. That's definitely a fantastic thing. Like any kind of business purchase, you have to weigh the ROI. But you know, if you have the extra marketing dollars at the end of the month to spend on something like that, it's definitely a good idea. Just track very carefully how well it works.
And so I'm not sure if I got the answer on the search engine marketing. Do you do any of that?
What do you mean by search engine marketing?
So pay per click, display advertising, maybe just advertising on YouTube through the video network.
Right. So yeah, I do some of that. You know, I'm not a PPC or an AdWords expert. That's getting, you know, more and more complex every year. But you know, I have done it, of course. Yeah, I can do it. I pretty much I find that AdWords and the Google network actually is a little bit too expensive for most of my customers, or most of what I want to handle or what I want to do. To tell you the truth, I do media buys. I'll do select media buys depending on the customer and the media source, of course.
What can you
Uh,
explain what that is?
well, media buying is just what you talked about. So you're purchasing traffic from source A to put to offer B. So site A or system A can be any system of any kind of traffic on any kind of ads on any kind of network on site of sites, and offer B could be any kind of offer on any kind of system on any kind of site or sites. So actually, I mean, people in the industry know this, that there's a lot of money and there's a huge opportunity there if you have the right contacts in A and the right contacts in B. And I have very good friends and very good colleagues in the industry who that's all they do. They just do that alone. And so anybody who knows this is rolling their eyes going, yeah, Josh, tell us something we don't know. But not a lot of people realize this. It's like buying and selling, you know, property. It's any you know, transactional kind of thing like that. So you know, I definitely am into that as well, and I have those contacts. And so if customers need traffic, you know, it's the key is just finding traffic that will convert. Of course, you can buy traffic all day that's just traffic, just noise, just people going to your site, blah, like zombies, blah, running around, you know, doing stuff. The key is finding someone who wants that weight loss offer, who wants that, you know, that acai berry or whatever the hell it is, right? So that's usually more of like an affiliate kind of highly salesy kind of thing, but not always. So you know, it could be car related, it could be blog related. People who want to know have they want to know about X, and you have a blog about X, and so you can get media buys for that too. My favorite advertising actually is on Facebook right now. Facebook, we're getting really good uh, uh,
Boosting?
success. Yeah, really good success in a lot of different Facebook ads and things like that. For example, my trailer, it's got around 41,000 views right now. For my trailer for my documentary has around 41,000 views on YouTube, and another 20 to 25,000 views that are in Facebook that are actually not displayed on YouTube. It's a little weird thing between Facebook and YouTube. I don't think they're displayed. Um, so and yes, those are all actual views. A lot of people have asked, did you just buy views for your trailer? No, no, I didn't. I wouldn't want to do that because I wouldn't want to skew my own stats of what's going on because I want to see what's going on. And of course, I want to reach as many people as possible. And the interesting thing about that, relevant to your question, is that I didn't target North America very much. I targeted the rest of the world,
Mm.
right? I've tried to target, and Facebook gives you this laser ability to focus different demographics. I try to target more left wing, liberal, political activist demographics in all these emerging nations and developing nations and already pretty rich nations, pretty tech savvy nations. And the reception around the rest of the world was overwhelmingly positive. And I knew it would be because I understand, because of my political philosophical background, I understand these cultures to some degree, and I understand how they're not very happy with America in general, or Google in general, and American in specific, right? So I knew that there's people out there outside of the bubble of SEO. There's people out there who are very pissed off at Google and see them as kind of this dangerous corporocratic entity, as they are. And so that's to say, people who see it rightly, right? Like in the EU, for example. And so I knew I would find a good audience there, and that's my point. Going back to my point is that Facebook gives you the laser focus to do that, and it was dirt cheap to do that. And
Now, Josh, you said that you did a YouTube video on Facebook. Is there a reason why you didn't post it as a native video to get the autoplay?
um, I wanted to do it on YouTube because I want to try and track it from other sources as well, and not just go with Facebook.
Hmm.
But I could have done that. I definitely could have done that. Um, I don't know the autoplay. I'm sure it has better stats, but and I know I actually have some customers who like to do autoplay videos when it starts. But I don't know. Maybe it was a mistake on my part, but I just
Well, I
it
mean,
is.
I know people personally who they do YouTube videos instead of Facebook videos because they'd rather get those views or click-throughs to the YouTube channel and get subscribers, that kind of thing. But in some cases, depending on your Facebook following, I don't know if you do Facebook marketing through a page, that kind of thing. Then some people, they switch to the Facebook page and do the autoplay.
Yeah, to say the truth, it was probably just habit on my part. It's like, oh, put video on YouTube, go, and then market on Facebook.
Yeah.
I definitely could have gone that route, but then I would have been kind of more married to Facebook, and I did want it to be a little bit more distributed and
What
get the subscribers and things like that.
what I like to do is I'll actually take the OG metadata from this plugin. Actually, it lets you specify the OG metadata in the plugin. It's called SSO, and I use WordPress. And I'll specify on the web page that there's a YouTube video, and so when I share it to a Facebook page, it'll actually promote the website with a play button for the website, so you can actually click through to the website, still get the view on the YouTube video, and then also have them be able to play it. And anytime that they like it in Facebook, it's actually liking the web page through the API.
Sweet, that's a pro tip.
But yeah, I mean, the only other question I had, I mean, I have tons, and I would definitely like to talk to you in the future, but I try to keep these things not too long so people don't, fall out of their chairs.
Freak
But
out.
yeah, I just the other question I was going to ask was, what was the TED Talk like, and how did you get on there?
Oh, that's a good question. So the TED Talk was great. I did a TED Talk. It's called "The Future of Google Search and Ethics." I did it in November, end of November, in Northern Ireland. It was fantastic. The people in Ireland were fantastic. I love Ireland. It's a great place. It rained the whole time, but that's okay. I'm used to a lot of rain because I'm from Vancouver Island and it gets a lot of rain close to Seattle. And Yeah, no, it was great. It was a great experience. The other speakers were very inspirational. I've had a really good success with the TED Talk. It's getting it's just starting to pick up steam now. I'm getting a very good reception on it, and I'm just trying other channels like Reddit, for example, and things like that to
Nice.
try and get more of a tech savvy kind of person going to it. It's controversial talk because it's a TED Talk. I went a little more highbrow than I do with most of my talks. I actually, broke out to Plato, and started. I used bigger words. I used a larger wordification. And I wanted to speak a little bit more to that kind of demographic or that kind of culture of the intelligentsia, if you will. He said, with ivory towers clinging on. Um, how I got the TED Talk was it's just networking. So networking is really important. We actually met this great people from Northern Ireland when I was in a conference, New Media Expo in Las Vegas a couple of years ago, and we met and we hit it off and we went drinking in Vegas. And let me tell you, what they say about the Irish is true. They can drink anyone under the table, or at least these Irish people could. And so, don't try and keep up with the Irish. Mental note. And so anyway, long story short, hangover, kind of like hangover SEO edition. Pick myself up, put my teeth back in my mouth, and then a couple of years later, they're putting out a call for TED Talks. It's like kind of the bigger TED Talk in Northern Ireland. And I was like, oh, okay, great. So I submitted a paper, and the person who knew me actually dismissed herself from the council because they had a five-person committee, a five-person council, five-person committee to choose the papers, and all five said yes to my presentation because everyone's concerned about the future of Google search and ethics in general, and the internet future in general. And they knew I was, I put on a good show. I have something controversial to say anyway. Love me or hate me, I have something controversial to say. So it makes something to make you say, to use your old Arsenio Hall reference. So yeah, so that's basically. Then I worked on it for about a year.
Wow.
It takes a lot of work, and you got to send. You have to send. It's not like a normal conference where you show up. It's half done. Of course, they want it to be a TED. They want it to be TED level of excellence. So I tried to live up to that as best as I could. And hopefully I'll be applying for another one. They're going to be holding another one at the end of this year as well. And this one is going to be more philosophical. It's going to be TEDx what? Dot dot dot. And you're like, what? What exactly? I said, what? Yep, you got it. That's what it is. And my proposed TED talk, they haven't accepted it yet, but they haven't put out calls for talks yet. But my proposed TED talk is going to be, what if the world were ethical? And basically, what would that look like? And so, yeah, I put that out there, and Anonymous, the hacker group Anonymous, I tweeted it out there that was going to be my next TED talk, and they favorited the tweet. So I'm looking forward to a bunch of people in Guy Fawkes masks, going to be in the audience freaking me out or something like that.
Right on. Cool. Well, hey, thanks for joining the podcast, Josh. It was really great having you, and definitely talking to you because, I mean, you're like one of my heroes. Like I was saying earlier, I basically started doing SEO with that first video, and I think I watched it like 3 times. It was like it was like an hour and a half long or something. But I mean, it was great. And if anybody wants to learn SEO out there, or they already know SEO and they're looking to up their game, his new SEO. I think if you just type in SEO 2016, he'll show up number one. And I mean, it's just awesome. You definitely want to check that out.
Yeah, thanks very much. I appreciate doing it. And if anyone has any questions or wants to contact me, by all means, they can do so. I can give out my contact info if that's okay with you, Chase.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so you can email me at joshbachynski@gmail.com. You can follow me at Twitter at joshbachynski. And you can find all those videos that Chase was so kind to mention at youtube.com/jbachins, JBACHYNS.
Right on. All right. Well, this is the end, and I'm gonna stop the podcast. So there it is.